Hey guys, do you have chronically tight calves? Will they not let go? Do they get tight and limit your ability to be as active as you want to? Have you tried all of the approaches that are out there in terms of soft tissue work, mobility work, and stretching, and yet the problem won't go away or it keeps coming on back? If that sounds like you, then this video is for you. Here I'm going to go through why your calves are so tight and what you can do to change that. Alright, so why exactly are your calves so tight? Why are they tight to begin with? And why is it that no matter what you try to do, the problem either won't go away or it keeps coming back? Well, typically when that's the situation, your calves are tight because you're stuck overusing them, overloading them. They're not so much a problematic part, they're an exhausted, overworked, heroic part of your body, and we gotta look at what's going on around them. We gotta look at your body as a whole and ask what's not helping those calves out. In order to do that, we're gonna go through some pretty basic things. First thing that we're gonna do is just see how do you sit into your lower half? And what I mean by that is how exactly do you go about going into a pretty basic movement known as a squat. And that's simply going down to the ground and then back. Now if you've got any limitations in calf flexibility, in ankle mobility when it comes to this movement where the upper part of your leg is going forward and your foot is staying flat on the ground, we call that dorsiflexion. If you've got any limitations there and the calves are involved, you'll know it because you'll feel a pull, then you gotta ask why that's going on. And typically it's because up above isn't helping on out. Now, what we've got to check and see is how is your control, how is the activity up above at your pelvis, up above at your trunk, and at your head and your neck. And we're going to use a wall in order to get a sense of what's going on, and then we're going to work our way off and away from the wall and get it so that you can perceive what's going on and work on it with just your foot underneath you and give you more and more functional, everyday looking movements for you to start working on. Alright, so the first activity that we're going to go through is a wall sit. Now this is an activity that I've demonstrated in several other videos, and it's just a very basic way to check and correct the manner in which you sit into your lower half and to be able to get a sense of how your control through your trunk, through your pelvis is, and work away from it. So I've gone through this in other videos, and I'm going to really truncate what I touch on here, and I'll list the references to other videos in the written portion of the video. So what you're going to need is either a rolled up towel or a ball. You're going to have that in between your knees. And what that does is this just makes sure that the muscles in the inside of your thighs are coming to the party. Oftentimes folks that have chronically tight calves, chronically tight ankles when it comes to that mobility, they will be very arched and straight up through their torso. And this really pitches their weight up and forward, so they have to actually lift off of their heels and up onto the balls of their feet in order to stay steady. And so oftentimes we're stuck up and on the balls of our feet, up and on using our calves when we've got chronic calf tightness. And so what we're going to look at is, can you get out of that position, and can you get some other muscles to kick in? And with this against the wall, what we're looking for is, can you sit into your thighs, and can you access some weight bearing, not so much through the balls of your feet, which is going to light those calves up, but more through your heels, which actually inhibits your calves. It shuts them down, it relaxes them. So this is just a quarter depth. You're squeezing the ball with a towel roll, no more than maybe about a foot away from the wall. Where we would want is ideally a foot length away from the wall, and for me that would be just about there. That may be really aggressive for some of you depending how tight your calves are. So just know that when you sit down into about a quarter depth, about 45 degrees-ish at your knees and at your hips, you want to have your shins, your lower leg, pretty vertical. So you don't want it out there. That's really working around the problem. You want them vertical, and preferably close enough so that it's about the distance of your foot away from the wall, so it's actually a little bit back. So you start there, and you sit down about quarter depth, squeezing the towel roll, holding the ball, and you're going to reach your arms forward. You're going to see, can you get bra line to belt line flat against the wall and pitch weight into your heels by lifting up your toes. This is just a test to see, can you do this? For some of you, it's going to be really hard. You're going to have to look down. You're going to have to reach down. You're going to have all it takes just in order to get into this position. And then if this is challenging, you'll notice you have a hard time breathing. And that's what you do is you go about trying to get into it and then seeing, can you get a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Now, again, what does this have to do with chronically tight calves? Well, the person that has chronically tight calves, this is going to be an extremely hard activity to take on. The person that has no calves, that has a lot of flexibility, lots of flexibility with this movement. In fact, if they were trying to take on some bodybuilding, trying to improve their physique in a certain ways, they would note that they couldn't grow their calves. In that situation, that person could just live on the wall. This isn't hard at all for them because they are set back into their heels and they do tend to have a much more flex sort of trunk, tuck sort of pelvis, abs really kind of on. That person's got no calf tightness and at times they have no calves. On the other end, and if you're watching this video, the person that tends to have chronically tight calves, maybe lots of calf development, but it's kind of getting in the way, stuck more to the balls of your feet, back really arched, and lots of propulsion there, but it's becoming problematic. So we're going to see, can you get out of it to give yourself a lot more wiggle room. That is the one-on-one activity that you want to check the box for first, and then we got to get away from the wall and move forward and give you something to hold on, and that's the next activity that we'll go into. All right, so the next level activity is getting away from the wall, and instead of pitching into our heels and getting our back really flat against the wall, now we just want our foot flat on the ground, and note, can we maintain some contact through our heel and not pinch to the ball of our feet, and while we're doing that, can we sit into a leg? So what we're going to be doing is a movement where we are going to step backwards, sitting into the rear leg, backwards, sitting into the rear leg to load on up the leg as a whole. And as we're doing that, we're actually sneaking into that range of motion that it's hard to get to let go. And so what we're going to do in order to aid this is we're going to have something to coach your upper body, because as you're sitting back into those legs, those of us that will tend to have very tight calves, not only will we pitch the balls of the feet, but our torso tends to stay very locked. It tends to get very arched and locked. That is a up and forward propulsive posture, and we have a hard time sitting on back. So what we need is a coach, we need an aid in order to help us sense, are we sitting back at our northern half enough in order to make this possible? And to do that, we're going to use a band like so. This is a very low tension band. There's all different brands that do the same sort of thing. Some sort of TheraBand works perfectly fine. You don't want something that's really hard. You want a very moderate resistance at most. And what you're going to end up doing is having it through one thumb, the other thumb, and you're going to have it way up in the armpits. And that's going to be across your shoulder blades. You don't want it down at your low back, mid back. You want it across shoulder blades. And what this is going to be is a shoulder blade scapular coach. And it's going to help you sense as you are sitting back into this movement where you're getting your calves to let go. You're getting the muscles around your ankle to let go. And you try to sit into your leg. Can you get your upper body to reach into this position that actually allows that tone to occur? Or do you tend to go right into that, which actually will light up your posterior chain? It will light up your backside. It will light up your calves, your spinal erectors, hamstrings get tight in this position. And if you're watching this video and you got chronically tight calves, you got no problem getting there, and it's a problem. We need to ease it away. So we're going to be pushing into a band in order to help sense what's going on and make a change. All right, so the way in which we're going to go through this movement is Keeping your gaze generally forward, you can always look down in order to peek at first, but for this to have a really good impact, you want to not have to watch where you're going, just generally looking forward. You're going to take a small step back and allow the step to be a little outward to stay steady. Don't try to keep your steps very narrow. It's too challenging and it's not useful, especially at first. So stepping a little back, you're going to sit into the rear leg, and here it's my right. And you just want to have even weight through your feet and just sit low enough into the leg so that you feel your thigh, you'll feel a little bit of your glute working, so you feel that right leg. And then, because you're on the right leg, you're going to reach with the right arm. The reason that we're doing this is because we're trying to get it so that the way in which you walk around, your calves learn to let go and other muscles come more to the party. And gait is ideally opposite arm and leg. So we're going backwards to sneak into this range of motion, sneak into this dorsiflexion, get load on and through your heel to get your calf to quiet down, and we're reaching with that same arm because it's going to have carry over to how you're walking around. So you just reach big enough so you feel a stretch across your upper back through the band. That tells you that you're not scrunching your shoulders. You take a breath in and then out. If you reached far enough, you'll feel a bit of a stretch through your rib cage, especially on the right when you breathe in. If you're sitting low enough, you feel your right thigh working. And then after a single breath, you then step toe heel into the other leg. Sit on in. Make sure you feel that left heel, your whole foot. And because we're on the left leg, you then reach with the left arm, big enough so you feel that stretch. Elbow is straight. You feel it stretching across your upper back, the band. You breathe in. If you've reached far enough, then you're going to feel a stretch at your upper back. If you sat deep enough, you feel your left thigh, even a bit of your left glute. Weight is even through the foot. And then you step back again into your right. Sit all the way through the right. Feel that right heel. Sit deep enough so that you're getting into your right hip. Feel your right thigh, no matter how low you have to go. And then reach that right arm and breathe in and out. And then you go to the left, back and forth. You get the picture. Handful of times back and forth seems to work really well. It takes a few to get into it, figure out what's going on. And then you usually have a few left where you start to get a sense of how to sit into your leg and what to let go of without thinking about it, and what you're trying to make sure is coming to the party so that you can get into these ranges. And what this tends to open up for you is a way to move around in the immediate moments after, where your heel can stay on the ground for a bit longer. There's a lot more looseness, so there's a lot more fluidity through your torso, through your body, and it gives you a way to start sitting into ranges like this where your calves don't seize up. And then from there, the process is getting yourself to be able to squat, to be able to lunge, and sit into your legs where you have a full flush contact through your foot, and not getting weight off of the heel, but not popping up on the toe either, and just getting your body to move around that, getting your leg to work as a whole, and noticing how quickly you'll pop off of that heel and up onto the ball of the foot, and then getting in some reps when it comes to exercise. Real basic strength training, but noticing where the weight is through your feet, and then getting in the reps, and then getting some changes coming from that. So that is just a very basic activity that is going to be challenging and helpful in the majority of situations where you or anyone is faced with chronic calf tightness, with chronic calf mobility issues that just won't go away no matter how much tissue work you do or how much typical stretching that you do. There is oftentimes nuances that need to be addressed with any specific situation. So note that if and as you try to go through these exercises, that there may be some unique things that need to be addressed. But this activity should not be painful, and if it's going to be worthwhile, that it should be challenging. And note that it may take several repetitions. It may take 100, 500 repetitions before it gets easier and easier. But But if you have any sort of challenges taking it on, please don't hesitate to reach on out. Ask any questions if you have them. Regardless, I hope that you're well. I hope your ankles are able to move freely. I hope your calves are not holding you back. And I'll talk to you soon.